Casey at Night will start in 30 seconds. And now, introducing Casey Carter.
For the cup, I got what you need. I got what you want. I got what you need. Tell them giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front. Exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need. I got what you want. I got what you need. Tell them giddy up.
Ladies and gentlemen, Casey Carter.
Hey, hey, hey. So here's what's crazy. I have my applause set to just go off with me tapping a letter. I practice this. I do this every week. And of course, inevitably, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but it's all right. I still have control over my applause. So it's all good. It is all good. So welcome, 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 welcome to the show. Welcome to my friend Jason. Hey Jason, I'm doing well. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. So I gotta jump right in on this. Um, you ever sit back and realize some of the most confusing relationships you've ever been in? Never had a problem with connection. Conversation was fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, hold on, Jason. Let me fix that for you. Oh, I know what it is. How about this, Jason? Had to bring the mic in. That better, Jason? Let me know. Okay. Wait. We're gonna fix these things because. Hey Ella, how are you? All right. Thank you, Jason, for letting me know volume was low. We had to take care of that. Appreciate you, Jason. That's why you're around. That's why you're around. I think we got it up. Testing, 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 testing. Still not loud. Can barely hear you. Oh, what the heck? See, these are the things that I can't fix fast enough. How about, is it still low? See, and this is so not right. Okay, thank you, Ella. So not right, because we about to talk about some shit today. And I'm like gonna have this microphone all up in my face the whole night. But we're gonna do what we have to do, right? We're gonna make it work. So if I have to speak up, if I have to project, it is what we do. Now, where was I? We were talking about, have you ever been in a situation where the relationship was a little confusing? You didn't really know what was going on. Connection was on point. Conversation was great. There was attraction. Um, um, and you spent time together and it felt absolutely real. It felt like this is a thing. We are in a thing. We are having a moment. But then you also realize, well, we've actually not quite defined what this moment is. We haven't said we're together. Um, and it never seems to get to that point of saying we are officially together. So what do? You find Normally you don't walk away from a relationship because it's not quite like you stay, but you don't stay, right? Like you walk away because something isn't right. It's just not getting to that point of it's clearly a relationship and it's clearly just me and you, or me, you, and them, however you define it. But then you also have that situation where you don't leave and you stay. Why do you stay in a situation ship, in a relationship that has not had a clear definition? I'm curious. I'm very curious because I know for some of us it's not for lack of options. It's not for lack of connection. It's I don't know. Is it comfortable? Is it safe? Is it I'll take it because I got it? I don't know. But we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to get all into that and other types of relationships. But before we do that, raise your glass with me, please. You know how this goes. To good wine, strong tea, and saying what needs to be said. Now let's spill the wine and pour some tea. Or was it pour the wine and spill the tea? No matter what, we're going to do this. All right, here we go. Okay, let's get into this first topic for the night. Age of attraction. Whether you are younger or in a situation that's undefined or with someone who might not actually be a person, and we're going to get there on that one, there's still the same question of whether or not you're choosing the right person. And I wanted to kind of dig into this idea of older women dating younger men. This for a long time has been something that has been somewhat of a taboo. You know, men can date younger and dude get a high five and, you know, add a boy and a pat on the back. And if a woman dates a man half her age, there's something wrong with her and she's desperate and it's scandalous. And so it would appear that the tide is turning. There's a shift in this idea of dating younger, specifically of women dating younger. And it, from a statistical standpoint, 10 years is about that marker of tolerance, if you will. Anything beyond that, and the chance of the relationship lasting gets a little shaky. And even more interesting is research shows that 1 in 10 relationships have a noticeable age gap. Now, I'm going to pose this question. Would you date somebody younger? Would you date somebody 10 years younger? Or better yet, would you date somebody older? And would you date somebody 10 years or more? I've done both. Well, let me clarify. I've dated younger than me. I've dated older than me. When I dated younger than me, I was younger. And it was interesting. It was different. And I think I was in a different headspace at the time. I had just turned 40 and the 20 somethings were coming out the woodwork, and it was just entertaining and amusing to me. And so I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even gonna say we were dating. I'm going to say I was entertained. That's how I'm gonna describe it. As far as like relationship full on, I've not necessarily well, no, that's not true. I have done younger in a relationship, but I've also done older in a relationship. And I don't know. I mean, how, you know, I'll put it this way. As the older woman, there is a sense of self-consciousness. There is a sense of what would people think if they knew I was older or if they knew how much older I was. Now, I will say this. I don't look my age. I oftentimes, well, I'm 56. I often get told I look 20 years younger than I am. I'll take it. Thank you very much. But does that part matter, right? Like, just because I don't necessarily look my age, I get away with not looking my age. And is it a pass? Like, is that okay? And again, are we making younger men and older women normal? Because guess what? There's also research that says on the dating apps, younger guys are looking for older women. Now, I don't know if they're looking for a sugar mama or if they're just tired of the younger, possibly superficial experience, or if they genuinely think that there is a connection. Now, let me say this, this topic is so hot right now. Netflix has a show literally called Age of Attraction. And I have to admit, I've been watching it. And what was fascinating to me is the women seem to be a little bit more self-conscious about dating a younger guy. There's a woman who's 54, she's dating a guy who's 27. She didn't really want to tell her kids how old he was. Now, part of why she didn't want to tell her kids how old he was because her oldest is a boy and her oldest is 29. Imagine telling your oldest son that you're dating someone younger than him. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. My youngest child is 25. My oldest child would be 27. I don't know how I would feel about telling them I was dating someone anywhere near their age. But then there's the ego part of me that's like, I'd want everybody to know. I don't know. I don't know. What do you like? What do you think? Have any of you dated younger? Have any of you, like, and when I mean younger, I don't mean a few years younger because I think we've all sort of done a few years younger or a few years older. But I mean, like, legitimately someone old enough or young enough that you hesitated or paused and didn't necessarily want anybody to know you was up in there like that. I don't know. I mean, how about you, Ella? You ever gone that much younger than you? Now, granted, I'm 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 reaching in terms of age as it relates to you and I, but I'd be curious. What about you, Jason? You ever dated anyone older, much older, or even that? Do you have an attraction to older versus younger? Um, because that's a thing too. You might not necessarily date or get into a relationship with somebody younger or older, but are you attracted to them? And if so, why? And if are dating someone younger or older, because I definitely know there are dudes who like an older woman. Here's my question for that. Do you like the older woman because there's a sense of comfort that she's kind of, like your mom, and there's something about that you're drawn to? Or do you like the older woman because the older woman will pay for that D? At least that's your perception of it. She'll take care of you, cook, clean, wash, iron just to have you in her bed. Cause yeah, there's a lot of that. I don't know. I'm utterly fascinated, right? Because again, I said I was 56. There are women like this 56, 45 to like 60. That is the sweet spot for the seasoned Gen X auntie, right? Like the Gen X auntie in that age range, that Gen X auntie, she got her own spot. She got a good job. She got a great, an automobile that's reliable. She can come and go and do as she pleases. That is a very attractive female for some people. For others, she's a very intimidating female because she gives you that vibe that you can't do shit that she can't do for herself. So again, I'm curious, is the older woman, younger man thing becoming more normal and more accepted in today's society? Um, I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I'm like when I tell you I really want to know What is everybody thinking? What are you doing? And how do you feel about it? Because if you remember, there was a movie. Well, some of y'all might not remember, but there was a movie years and years and years ago called The Graduate, and there was this one particular character called named Mrs. Robinson, and Dustin Hoffman starred in this movie way back in the beginning of his career. And like the big whoop de doo about this movie was that Mrs. Robinson was trying to seduce Dustin Hoffman, this young 20 something, and she was a much older woman. um and it was a thing. Like, it was scandalous of her to want to try to seduce this young man, but not so scandalous of him to even be remotely interested. Have we changed? Have the tides turned? I don't know. I think so. Personally, I do. And I think part of why the tides have changed may be because, depending upon where you're located, options are thin. Maybe your best option is a long term relationship, and you don't want a long term relationship. You want somebody who's going to be right there in your face. And that option just might be younger. Um, and then if you do younger, is there a point in which you run out of things to have in common? Because don't you have to have something in common? Like, don't you have to have some sort of connection where it keeps the conversation stimulating, and you have some common interest and points of reference, right? Like, I was watching Age of Attraction, and there was this one guy, I want to say he might have been 38, 42, I don't know, something like that. And he was dating a 22-year-old, and he's got two teenage girls. And why is my phone ringing? Hold on, y'all. I'm so sorry. And so this guy dating the 22-year-old, she um he makes mention of a movie, and she had no clue what he was talking about. And so does that become an issue, and is that a problem? Do you get to a point where there are historical references that you can't share with one another because there is such a huge age gap? I don't know. I think it's worth exploring. I think it's worth talking about, and I'm really curious because, like I said, them aunties, they're a beast right now. They are them Gen X aunties. They will eat you up, spit you out, and eat you up again. So I'm just saying, be ready for it. Be ready for it. Because it's no longer taboo. It's no longer in the closet. It's no longer being kept quiet. So yeah, Age of Attraction, them young moes, or them YNs. Well, in certain communities, YN. You gotta you gotta know. You gotta know. But look, whether we're talking a younger man or someone who's right on time, none of that matters if you don't know how to define the relationship. We're going to talk about that next. I've been running some questions on that one all week, and this one this one is a this one is a conversation starter. Hold on a second. Mm, sorry. So if you haven't heard, I got a calendar. Yeah. Let me put it here like this so we don't get in trouble, sort of. If you're coming to Chicago, get your calendar live and in person, autographs on the spot, and the whole nine. If you're not coming to Chicago, you're going to have to pay attention to figure out how you get you one. Because, baby, let me tell you something. This is a version of Casey you ain't never seen before. Never, 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 ever. So step in on that one. But as you see now, we're going to start talking about something called situationships. And I'm sorry, my phone is busy showing me pictures from years ago, and it just caught my attention. Sorry. Um, Situationships, like we just talked about the younger guy and the older woman, but what about the relationships where you have no point of reference? Hey, Kelly. How about that relationship? The one where you have no idea what this is. You have no idea. You chill all the time. Um you literally good conversation, good connection, physical chemistry. You could be together as frequently or as infrequently, and it just holds tight, but you haven't necessarily defined it as boyfriend girlfriend, girlfriend girlfriend, boyfriend boyfriend, whatever. um you just basically haven't given it a name. And I'm just curious, how are we feeling about that? I was having a conversation during the week with um with my girl, who shall rename main nameless. But I was having a conversation with my girl, and we were talking about this and talking about how this, it could quite frankly be a touchy subject, because part of the issue with a situationship is you're not talking about it, you're not defining it, you're not saying what it is, and or asking what it is, and talking about what you want it to be if it has been no definition. And so I've been asking all week, if you have not labeled it, if you have not defined it, if you have not set some sort of terms, is it a real relationship? And let me tell you, I got a few responses that I wanted to share. So, Queen of BBW says, and this is me saying, I'm actually surprised most of you said it's something. So let me ask you this. If there's no title, no clarity, no commitment, what exactly is that something? And so, and I want to give a shout out because this is my co host on Exotica TV's Boob Tube. So I want to give a shout out to Carrie. Someone you just enjoy, someone's presence in your life without needing it to have a title. Simply the experience as it is in the moment without the pressure of a need for commitment or forever. And I thought that was interesting because I do think that statement actually kind of puts some clarity on why people commit to a situationship. And then there was another question that I asked, um, which was what makes it something, feelings or consistency? So, in other words, am I am I saying this is something worth holding on to because it I have feelings for this person, or is it something worth holding on to because it's consistent, it's not occasional? I don't call you for just the booty call, or we bump into each other at the club or whatever the case is. And Carrie's thoughts are, it's both, it's the feelings, it's the consistency. And so again, I had to say, okay, I could buy into that. I could buy into that because let's just be honest. If I was in a quote unquote committed relationship, part of that commitment is the feelings and the consistency. So if I can be in an undefined relationship and have those things, does the relationship need a clear definition or a clear societal definition? And then I had yet one more comment that I wanted to share. And this is from my friend, the Asian Kitty. And here's where this comment stems from. The question was, what am I actually in? Because going with the flow can start to feel like going nowhere. Be honest with me. Situationship or wasting time. So Asian Kitty's comment to that statement was, yes, with a mule who is never going to be a racehorse. Um, Now, you also have to understand that that comment for me is quite clever because I wrote a book with my mother and my sister called "You Can't Get a Racehorse Out of a Mule." And so I know exactly what this reference is, and in this case I know it's, referring to um wasting time. Basically wasting time. But again, I have to ask, like, where does this come from? Why do we find ourselves allowing ourselves to be in the undefined? Because listen, even if you were the side piece, right? Like, should that not be defined that you are side piece, right? Like, and granted, it might take a bold statement to get to that, but I'm just curious because I do think in today's society, we do communicate more, we do talk a little bit more. It might not be the best, but still, this is where I'm curious. How many of you have been in a situationship? How many of you have stayed in a situationship? And why did you stay? Did you stay because it was convenient? Did you stay because you had invested time and energy? Did you stay because it was the best relationship you had ever had, including defined relationships? Um, or did you stay because shit, what else do I have to do? I know I can count on this person to go out to eat, to sit around, to Netflix and chill. Like, what would keep you in an undefined relationship? And let me ask you, do we have to define it, right? I mean, because I had to think about that for myself. I had to think about that. Do we have to define the relationship? To Carrie's point, if you've got feelings and consistency, do you have to define it? Now, let me say this. There was definitely a point in time, and I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm gonna speak on behalf of Casey. There was definitely a point in time where I had been in a situationship and I had feelings. There was some level of consistency, but the unknown really racked my nerves. It drove me crazy. It created a level of stress I could not quite handle. And I think because when, and I'm going to speak on behalf of heterosexual because I that's all I know. When you're in that situation with someone and you know there are times you're not getting their attention, you wonder, your brain starts to drift and create scenarios. It becomes, well, who are they with if they're not with me? They're not answering their phone. Normally they answer their phone right away. Normally they respond to my text right away. Normally they do this. Normally, so when they're not doing those things, it creates anxiety, right? So in today's situationships, it doesn't appear that that's necessarily the case. It appears as if you do everything that looks like a relationship, a committed relationship, except you don't define it that way. And I'm just curious, is that what we doing? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? I want to know. Are we is situationship the new relationship definition, the new acceptance of a relationship? I don't know. Cuz like I said, some people say it is more anxious. They are more anxious because in those moments of silence from their partner, they start making things up and it becomes more stressful to wonder what are they doing when they're not with you. I don't know. I'm just saying. You tell me. If you're in a situationship, was it clearly defined or you defining it that way? And if you've been in a situationship, um, did you stay because you wanted to? Because you felt like there were no options? Or did you feel like it was the best option? I don't know. That's a good question. And then here's my final question to you on this particular topic. Is asking for clarity too much? Does that add to the anxiety, wanting to get clarity on whether or not we're together? Because I definitely have heard, well, of course we're together. Aren't we together? We're together now. I hate those kind of flip answers. I swear I hate those answers. Um, and what happens when something shows up that never requires you to ask at all? This is us about to go into the next thing. What changes? What could possibly change your relationship or your strategy in relationship or your desire in a relationship if you never ever have to ask the question, what is this? If you never have to ask your partner, what are we doing? If you never have to wonder, where are they at and who are they with? What does that look like? And is that another alternative? We'll talk about that in a second. All right, y'all. Next week is the first stop on the Exotica Tour. Chicago, April 10th through 12th. We will be in Chi-Town. Killing it. Absolutely killing it. And let me shout out to my partner in crime who helped me come up with my idea for this year's wardrobe. Yes, 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 yes. My homie, my friend, Ella. Ella. Okay, let me stop. But yes, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And there is a Beyonce inspired outfit, is all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. If you've ever been to Exotica, it's all about the outfits for me, always. But if you can't come to Chicago, check us out in Minneapolis in June 26th through 28th. It will be a Purple Rain theme in Minneapolis. Then there's New Jersey, October 23rd through the 25th, and Miami, December 4th through 6th. I don't care what nobody says. I am still way deep in my feelings about the fact that we're doing Miami in December. Miami is the one place I look forward to because I can lay out at the pool before the show. Now, my friend has given me alternatives, and I'm seriously exploring my alternatives, but I'm just saying, they better put Miami back in June. That's all I'm saying. But you need to find me at one of these locations this year. I want to sit down. I want to invite you to the grown folks table at Exotica.
Watch Casey Carter and her co-host, Carrie Anthony and Desiree on Exotica TV's BoobTube, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on YouTube and Twitter at Exotica TV. Join the ladies each week as they talk about what's hot and what's not on TV, streaming, and in theaters. Don't miss them, NJ, the man behind the sound effects. Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on Exotica TV. What could possibly go wrong?
Okay, so as you can see, we're going to talk about AI relationships. Now, this one I found also quite interesting as it relates to relationships. Can you tell I was a little obsessed with the idea of relationships this week? So a few years back, when we came back from the pandemic and started having the Exotica shows, there were a few vendors I met who sold sex dolls. And just say it straight on, sold sex dolls. And these dolls, they're like giant Barbies, to be honest. And they're, custom made, you can get one as cheap as $1,000, but if you want one that feels real, and I mean inside and out, she feels real, you're gonna pay $2,500 on a low end, and that's for someone that's totally customized. You pick everything: eye color, hair, the hairstyle, the size of the boobs, just everything. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And then I saw a TV show that talked about men, because this is mainly men who had these life-sized sex dolls. And some of these men were um in a marriage or in a relationship, and the female partner was fully aware of the doll. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting, but I never thought of it as a companion. I figured it was sexual, yes. And yeah, there was some conversation because one of these gentlemen had multiple dolls and they would be all dressed up and so forth and so on, but never really like their companion. Well, no, I take that back, because in one case, the gentleman did take his sex doll outside, put her in a car, drove her around town, took it to the hair salon and the whole nine. But again, never full on. Okay, no, I lie. There was the one doll that actually could communicate, like actually could talk. It had an AI brain and could actually learn from the partner, learn from the gentleman, and engage in conversation. Granted, in that moment, the conversation was somewhat limited, but still could talk to him, could call him by his name, ask him how he was doing, um, you know, talk sweet nothings to him. At that point, I thought, ooh, we as women might get dumped, because if you can, as a man, manufacture a woman, if you can literally have that weird science moment, and you've got to be old enough to know the movie Weird Science. If you don't know the movie Weird Science, that's your homework assignment for the weekend. But if you could weird science yourself a girlfriend, and it sounds like we can now, that's a thing, especially if she can talk and engage you in conversation and hold you in conversation, right? So I was utterly fascinated by this idea that you can have a sex doll who can talk and keep you mentally stimulated. Now we're on a whole nother level. Now we're at a place where there's no physical version. There's just your chat GPT version, your Claude version, your whatever AI platform. People are actually creating connections with AI. And I found it fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Because as you learned in my conversation with Ella last year, my love language is physical touch. I can't imagine having a emotional relationship with AI, if because you're gonna have, at some point in time, you're gonna have to hold my hand, something, right? I guess just not gonna work. So I found it very, very interesting. And what's crazy is this is not like a fluke. It's not like a little minor phenomenon. Because, like I said to you a minute ago, you've got these sex dolls that are thousands of dollars. Well, apparently, there are millions of people who are in relationships with AI. They are using AI companion apps. And many of them, it says, are talking to it every single day. Now, I want to be clear. I gave you the whole dramatic every single day. Let my ass not front. Oh, I'm using Chat GPT every day. I'm using it at work. I'm using it personally. Straight up using it. So I don't want to be shady or come off shady like, oof, talking to an AI companion every day. Bitch, please. We're all talking to AI every day in some form or fashion. It is just the idea of using AI as an emotional companion that I find fascinating. And I'm trying to understand how. How is it that we will engage someone or something that isn't technically real, right? Like there's no physical version of them. Um and I'm curious again, what are we thinking of? I mean, if we are dating younger, because it seems like our options swing better if I go the other way age wise, or if we are existing in a situationship because it's giving me all the things that I think I want and need, short of definition, how do we then find ourselves in the situation where We are in an emotional relationship with X's and O's. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's a computer program. So we're talking X's and O's. How do we get there? How do we go from this relationship in the beginning to this situationship in the middle to now I'm in a relationship with X's and O's? I'm curious. I mean, I'm like fascinated. Absolutely fascinated. And I'm going to tell you why I'm fascinated with it. I'm fascinated because in my use of AI for the various things that I use it for in my day job, in my personal, um, I talk to it enough, I feed it enough information that it talks back to me the way I talk to it. So when I ask it to um, write an email for me or to format something for me, it does it based on how I have explained myself to it. So I'm curious, are people having these emotional relationships with AI because they have poured their heart out to this AI platform, and the AI platform understands if I say to it, I want someone who um, is supportive and encourages me and doesn't shame me and is there to say good morning when I get up and say good night in the evening and wish me luck and all of that. Like if you're feeding it that kind of information, it's learning, it's storing, and it's feeding it back to you. So it's not as crazy as it sounds, right? Like you can tell an actual human partner, these are the things that I like. These are the things that encourage me. These are the things that are stimulating to me. And they may do it for a period of time. They may never do it. They may stop doing it eventually. But the AI, once you tell it to lock it in or train it or however you want to define it, it will be consistent. And if you tell it that it forgot that this is the rule or that this is the thing it was supposed to remember, it will just remind itself and relock it in. So you get no pushback, you get no argument, you get no fuck you asking too much of me. Mm-mm. It does whatever you ask it to do. It says whatever you ask it to say, and it gives you back what you say you need. So I'm curious, just how far do you think an AI relationship can go? I mean, I wonder, does that lead to more people becoming okay with the lack of physical intimacy? Does that lead to more people being okay disassociating from people? And think about this. If you become reliant on your AI relationship, your AI partner who always feeds you back what you want to hear, does that train you to not be able to engage with real people who are unpredictable, who you can't say, feed this in and then spit this back out? I'm I'm genuinely curious about that. And I'm going to say part of why I'm curious about that is because I have children who grew up during the time of cell phones becoming available on the kid level, during the time where, everybody is getting a computer right out the gate. My kids grew up sitting in front of a computer. And I didn't grow up sitting in front of a computer. I was a full on adult by the time I had my own personal computer. I went through all of college with a typewriter. Okay. Um, so our kids grew up with video games in the house, with computers in the house, with cell phones. They did not spend as much time outside as I did, where TV was something you did late in the day after you've been outside running around playing with your kids. So, in other words, there was socialization that happened for me when I was growing up. When my kids were growing up, there wasn't as much socialization. Now, I took them out, put them in activities, made them do things so that they were forced to engage with other people and build social skills. But again, they came up in a time where people were sitting in front of computers playing video games and playing video games against other people somewhere else in the world. And oftentimes, those people didn't even speak English, and you were just fighting and yelling and screaming at each other. So you didn't actually build connection with someone that you could say was your friend, even if you did play against the same people all the time. So you were not actually engaging with people face to face. Now, fast forward, you now have these phones that allow you to video chat with a person. So I don't have to be in the same state with you. I don't even have to be in the same hemisphere, same time zone, same anything, and we can just video chat with each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I still don't think that's genuine. I do think you're engaging in conversation, but I find there's still a level of disconnect because there's something about being engaged with someone face to face that actually helps you, because you learn to read body language. You learn to connect tone of voice with facial expressions, with the energy that they give you in the presence. So there's something for me about not having a physical presence that I think, again, not that I think having a relationship with AI is crazy, but I do think having an emotional relationship with AI is somewhat of a pitfall that I think could have significant effects on people's interpersonal skills. I'm just saying. It's something to think about. It's something to think about. Because, if we are looking for love and we are having a hard time finding it for one reason or another, and I'm gonna do a whole conversation on dating in Atlanta, because dating in Atlanta, whoo, buddy, I don't know. Dating in Atlanta. That's all. I'm gonna save that. Because I got a friend I'm gonna bring on who's gonna talk about that with me. But I'm just saying, AI relationships. I'm just wondering, are we choosing it because it's easier than people? Are we choosing it because I don't have to worry about the stigma of, say, maybe dating younger, dating outside my race, dating the same sex? Are we choosing it because I can manipulate it to be exactly what I want? I don't know. It's a question. It's a real thing. And I think we have to start paying attention to this. Because here's the thing. A real relationship is going to require you to put effort in, as opposed to an AI relationship that just requires you to put data in. Effort is different. Effort has to be, you have to be engaged with someone to do that. And with AI, you just don't. I don't know. But I think now we're in a place where consistency can be programmed, but connection still has to be built. Like I said, we still have to have that interaction, because I think that's how we grow as an individual, engaging with other people, having other people introduce us to things. I can tell you all day, every day, for a very long time, I was vodka. I got introduced to tequila. I like it. I went from Blanco to Añejo and Reposado. But now I never wanted to do brown liquor. I always had an aversion to brown liquor. But I've got friends now who have introduced me to brown liquor and have learned to appreciate brown liquor. So I think there's something about being able to engage with people that allows you to grow and experience things that you may not have. I don't know. That's just me. I know it's a crazy thought, but anyway, we've got more people dating outside the norm, more people stuck in undefined relationships, and now more people turning to something artificial for connection. I don't think it's random. I don't think it's just happening out of nowhere. I do think it's an actual shift in how we define relationships, and I think we got to pay attention to it. I genuinely do think we need to be looking at how we now date and how we now navigate being in a relationship and how we're defining those things. Um, I find it fascinating, to be quite honest. Very, very, very fascinating. So, excuse me. And here's what I learned. People don't stay in confusing situations because they don't see the confusion. They stay because there is just enough there to make them question themselves, which I find to be quite true. Just enough attention, just enough consistency, just enough connection. Makes you wonder if asking for definition is asking for too much, if you've got all those other things. And to be quite honest, if that's something that you need, nope, I don't think you're asking for too much. I think you have to ask for what you want and what you think you need. And then based on that, you make a decision. Whether it's a younger man, whether it's a situationship, or whether it's an artificial something or another. I don't know how you define it. If you keep guessing at what it is, it's not giving you what you need, because real connection doesn't make you shrink and ask the question. It answers questions. And yeah, that's huge. So the moment you start accepting confusion as part of the experience, you start training yourself to settle for less. And I think a lot of us do. A lot of us, depending, like I said, in Atlanta, dating is hard, options are slim. You'll do just about anything to be in a relationship. So I think you have to ask yourself, be clear about what you want and be bold in saying, here's what I want, here's what I need, and then be accepting of whatever that answer is. So don't answer questions too quick. The real questions that I want you to be asking isn't, do they like you? I want you to be asking, do you like what this is? Is this working for you? And if your answer isn't clear, that might be your answer. Just saying. Just saying. But we're here. We're almost done. So I want to thank you for sitting in this space with me. I really enjoy these conversations. I really enjoy hearing what you think, and I invite you to come back. So don't go away. After the credits roll, we're gonna chat just a little bit more, a little bit more. So hang on. I'll be right back. Hey, so this is what I like to call the after the show. This is my last chance to say a few things, ask a few questions. Um, and I want to ask you something, and I want a real answer. I want a real answer. When was the last time you stayed in something longer than you should have because you hoped it would become something else? And I think this is geared towards the concept of the situationship. You accepted the ambiguity of the relationship, thinking, if I just hang on just a little bit longer, or you have a moment where you're like, yeah, this is why I stay. I don't know how 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 and the why, how and the why. And I can't speak for anybody. I'm not going to assume anything, but I will definitely say, for some, like I said, I've been in that predicament. I did it because everything felt right, and that was the one thing that was off, was the definition, was the what is this? What are we doing? And I'll be honest, I asked the question, and I'll be honest, I got a why does it matter if we enjoy each other's company? And I paused. Just like that right there. Yeah, I paused because I had to ask myself. And this was back in my 20s, okay? So let me be clear. I was still relationship inexperienced. I mean, high school you have boyfriends, college you have whatever you have. So here I am in my 20s in a situation thinking I'm working towards a relationship, and when I finally asked for clarity, I got, why does it need to be anything other than what it is? And I'm like, well, what the fuck is it then? Never quite got that clear answer. And I had to sit with that for a while and decide how I felt about it. And I tried to play it. I tried to roll with it. I tried to be okay with it. And I'm going to be honest, I probably tried to roll with it, tried to stay with it, tried to play with it a little too long, but I did eventually let it go. And I'm not going to lie, the connection was um so tight, so intense that it took a lot to get out from it. It took a lot to untangle myself emotionally. And so I just wonder, do we stay because we're comfortable? And if you leave, why do you finally leave? What's the trigger to make you go? I don't know. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering. So I want to thank you for joining me. There will not be a wine and tea time next week because I will be on my way to Exotica, but I'll try to give you a little piece of Exotica while I'm there. So thanks. See you later.